Ko te auhaere o te pipi wharaurua, rau ko te koikoi a tēnā. He tō nei te kahuonga huru, he kukume nei te kūmara nui a Mataora. Ko putua ngā rua kūmara, ki ngā makuru nui o te tau. Ko eke te wā, e tahuri ai te iwi, ki te hauhake, i ngā makuru nui o te wānanga. Arā, ko ngā purapura o Matariki. Ko Matariki tērā e ārau mai ana i te pai, te whetū tapu o te tau. Ko Waipunarangi kei runga, ko Kristin Ross tēnei, he tau nei. Nau mai, haere mai ki tā tātou kaupapa, a seeds of Matariki. He te tuahine, tēnā koe kei te pēhea.
Tēnā koe, paimutunga, ka nui te pai takutunga ne, mihi ana. Ki a koe ki tēnei kaupapa e karanga mai nei ki au. Kia noho au ki tō taha, kia wānanga ai tātou. Tā au ai, e tahi kōrero mō tēnei whetū tapu o te tau, ko Matariki.
Ai, tuatahi ake. Whakamōhio mai ki te huna e areare mai ana. Ko ai koe, no hea koe.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou kei ngā taringa pikoko e whakarongo mai ana. Ko Kristin Ross tēnei, ko maunga taniwha te maunga, ko tokarau te moana, ko māmaru te waka, ko te parata te tangata, ko Ngāti Kahu te iwi, ko Ngāti Tara te hapu, he uri tēnei no muri whenua, te hiku o te ika, e mihi atu ana ki a tātou katoa.
Tēnā koe, sis. Hey, you've got a lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats, and a lot of people probably may not necessarily know whānui, ko waikoe, but they are aware of a lot of things that you do. And we might as well just start right there, because we'll end up there anyway, because, you're very well known in the media, the production space, for your expression and wanting to normalise te reo Māori for a tamariki. And that was through PPMA. And so can we just start there and actually start to speak about what brought that inspiration in, but also the journey in that space?
Yeah, kia ora. Media. I don't know how I became an authority of media and broadcasting. It was something that just came and was born out of necessity, bro. So Hohepa and I, my husband, we were at university. We went to university to learn te reo Māori. Didn't grow up with te reo Māori, didn't have anywhere to turn to learn te reo Māori, and saw the pathway through academia. So we went to Waikato University, and in our first year there, I became hapu with our first daughter, who's now 13 years old. Yeah, and we went into Te Tohu Paitahi, which is a full immersion program. After 4 weeks, bro, you go in there with little to no reo, and after 4 weeks, you are in full immersion, sink or swim. And so when I fell pregnant, we made a decision at that time, okay, we have a uri now. We have a child that's coming into this world. What are we going to do about this language thing? And it was actually a catalyst for us to become really stringent in our tikanga within our own home in order for the reo to survive and to live. And so when Hinehui was born, we decided, okay, no English, absolutely no English. If there is one place on this earth we can nurture and care for the language, it's our home. Once we step outside of the doors of our home, you can't do anything. You can't keep English out. It's insidious. It's everywhere. And so we decided, okay, our home will be a Māori-speaking home. We got rid of the TV, and when we brought it back, we were only watching Māori television so that our ears were becoming accustomed to te reo. We would listen to the radio. And that's how it kind of started. And at the time, it's no secret, funding is quite small in comparison to English medium funded broadcasting shows. And so at the time, our daughter was sort of 3 years old, and the types of programs they were playing on Māori television were borrowed content from overseas production companies, but some of the shows were so old, like shows that my parents and sometimes even my grandparents were watching. Yeah. And so we saw this gap for our own daughter, who we were trying to raise in our home, that she needed some entertainment that was at the same caliber of Dora the Explorer, which was the massive show of the time. And then, of course, Leon Blake and Pānia Papa, they translated Dora, and it was like, whoa, this is the taumata that we can take te reo to in cartoons for our children. What's after that? And so I looked at that for my master's thesis. It was about the benefits of borrowed content translated into te reo Māori for the language. And what was the aspiration to further that mahi? And it was to have our own animation created by ourselves with our own stories. And at that time, that was a far-fetched concept in terms of funding, because animation is the most expensive production to create.
Yeah, I could imagine so.
Yeah, and so we actually tried to get funding for Pipima because it was developed through my thesis, and it kind of, it didn't fall anywhere. And Hoipa said, why don't we just make dolls that speak Māori? And I kind of thought, oh, okay, yeah. And this one day, this package showed up at my house, and Hoipa didn't tell me that he had actually sent the character drawings to make some samples.
To get made. Wow.
And Hinehui opened the box, and it was, the first prototype was actually Pito. And she opened it, she pushed the hand, and he said, kia ora, ko Pito tōku ingoa. And her whole face just lit up, and I knew instantly in her reaction that this is what our babies needed. This is what our whānau reo Māori
Goosebumps.
needed. And after that, we could never have foreseen what come after that sample arrived to our house. And of course, after that, the animation come to fruition, and that was that's what propelled us into the media industry. And so that was born out of necessity in our own home, in our own whānau. We saw that we needed resources and tools that were relevant and contemporary, and that our children saw themselves in. And that was the birth of Pipima, which took us into the world of media.
And from that, I guess, commitment to te reo Māori, being hapu with Hinehui, then wanting to create our own awesome reo Māori animations at the taumata of what has been circulating, not just here in Aotearoa, but around the world, to then having that concept. How long was that process from, I guess, the thesis to the actual samples turning into a cartoon?
Yeah, it was a really long time, bro. It was actually a really long time. And I suppose the thesis was the manifestation in words and pictures of a whakaaro that Hohepa and I had been brewing on for some time, but we just couldn't see the pathway for it to come to fruition. And, we knew we wanted to build and lift the status of the language in all spaces that were relevant in our life. And we are content consumers, so that was an area that we saw. And it wasn't until our daughter was born and we saw the necessity for her that we saw the pathway. So the thesis, I think, was in 2015 is when I submitted, and it probably started at around 2010 when Hinehui was born.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Hey, we see people's kaupapa come to fruition and we think, oh my God, that's just come out of nowhere. But actually they've been brewing on it, and they've been working on it 1% every day, and moulding this thing that what we see is only the tip of the iceberg. We're actually underneath, the water is all the mahi they've put in.
All the mahi, all the challenges.
All the challenges.
And I'm sure there was just so much of that, because when you're looking at the taumata like Dora, and now you're trying to create something that hasn't been created before, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of challenges, and certainly probably a lot of doubt. But can you speak to me about you and Hohepa, because you were doing this together, and no doubt you had challenges together, but I'm sure a lot of hua actually came out of that as well.
Yeah, I think we're really privileged to have been in a space to grow together and work together in so many areas of our life over our relationship.
18 years.
18 years. I mean, I don't even look old enough to have an 18-year relationship. But, the fact that I met Hohepa, and one of the aligned values that actually brought us together and connected us together was this longing for our culture and our language. And so we went into learning language, that pathway, together as a couple. And what I've seen over the years of people who enter this world of language learning is that it's really hard when you're on your own. And, we can go into classrooms, but it's actually what happens outside of the classroom that really matters. And so we were privileged because we went to class together and then we went home and we spoke about what was happening in that class. But the challenge for us was we had been together for 5 years before we learnt the reo. So it was awkward. It was so awkward to speak to each other in Māori. There was so much insecurity, all of that stuff that comes with learning the language, this insecurity, this internal
And you're already
narrative.
in a pattern too, around like your communication styles. And so you're trying to disrupt that as well.
You're trying to disrupt that. And so that disrupts the flow of whakaaro connection because you're trying to string together a sentence in your head. And so you get frustrated with each other. And it's just all these learnings. And it was actually the birth of Hinehui that eased all of that because we started to kind of play with our reo Māori and speak to each other in reo through Hinehui.
Yeah.
And, as a baby, that's infancy language. That's infant type language. It's child's play. So it made learning and speaking to each other in the reo fun. So we started that together. And then again with Pipima, we didn't sit down and say, all right, we're going to do all these projects together and we're going to make a business and we're going to do this. It just kind of was serendipitous. It just happened. And so Pipima happens and then we see a gap for other areas. Now, Hohepa's study at university was Te Whare Kōkōrangi. So he was Rangi Mātamua's understudy at Waikato University and he was a part of the early research projects that brought life to the Matariki book. And so once we sort of had got Pipima underway, we saw this gap for Te Whare Kōkōrangi. And, Hohepa and Rangi and Hemi Whanga, they were working together all the time, every day, researching, finding kōrero for the whetū. And they actually did an exhibition as a part of one of their research projects at the museum in Hamilton.
Wow.
So Hohepa, Rangi and Hemi, they put together a Matariki exhibition at the Hamilton Museum. And Hohepa, Rangi and I, we went down there and we were like, imagine if this could just be in people's homes, like on their screens. How do we get people to engage with this? And so Hohepa was studying for his master's thesis, The Language of the Stars. And his role was to go through repositories of knowledge, literature, and to pull out all of the star references within ngā mōteatea, ngā karakia, ngā haka, ngā niupepa, ngā atikara, JPS, all of the journals. His job was to find any star reference and collate a database. And so his PhD was actually about how do we disseminate traditional ways of knowing and being, traditional mātauranga in contemporary ways. Wow. And the screen was just staring at us, yelling at us, going, here, this is how we can do it. And so we sat in the museum and Hoepa and I, we bought this light. It's kind of like those makeup lights that makeup artists, those ring ones. Yeah. We had no idea how to light anything. And we got Rangi to stand up and just put this bloody horrible white light in front of him. And we said, let's do a little 2-minute explainer, launch a Facebook page and see what happens. And so he did this little kōrero. It was only a 2-minute video that Hoepa filmed and cut, and it was about Matariki. We launched his Facebook page and it just flew. It took off like wildfire. And we just said, we have a medium here to reach many, many people with the mātauranga that you have, Rangi. This is powerful. And so went the route of building media with Rangi, Living by the Stars, Beyond Matariki, the early works with Rangi that got the kōrero for Matariki out to people. Yeah.
Far out. That's so mean. Just from the whole decision of wanting to learn te reo Māori, and now look at the journey.
Kia ora.
So what you're telling me is people just need to get pregnant and go through that. What you're telling me is just people need to get hapu and then go learn reo with your partner.
And speak to your baby. Koe hoki. What is the biggest thing we can ever give to this world? It's a Māori speaking uri.
Yeah, wow.
That is what we can give to our people. If we have tamariki, mokopuna, mohi o pū ana ki te reo, mohi o pū ana rātou ki a rātou anō, kaore I tū atu I tēnā. Kaore he mahi I tū atu I tēnā.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so when we think about, I guess, that media space and, being pivotal in the early outburst of mātauranga around Matariki, you reached the burnout? Or was it because during that there was a build-up of burnout, but then, COVID happened.
Yeah.
Is that part of the journey as well?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that there was any one marker of kaupapa or mahi that was like, this is it. I think it was just that we were so desperate to learn the language where there was this hole in our identity, and we didn't actually know what it was until we learnt the reo. And it was like, oh my God, that's what it was. Everything that I understand in this world, how I perceive the world, it all makes sense now that I have the reo. And so when you are someone that comes from nothing and you work hard to attain something that you long for, you can actually start getting into a dangerous place of coming from a scarcity mindset because you're afraid you're going to lose it again. And so I think for myself anyway, I became obsessed about lifting the status of the language and serving my people and doing projects that I knew were adding language value. What I didn't consider during that time was how I was caring for myself and how I was how I had a self-awareness of being able to sustain that type of mahi. And for me, I felt indebted to my kaiako all the time. I want them to know that I'm grateful for everything that they gave to me. I want my elders at home, my aunties and my uncles, I want them to know that I'm grateful and I appreciate everything that they gave to me. What I have now is not my own. It came from all of them. And so I wanted to express that in the projects that I was doing and the kaupapa that I was doing. But myself became the cost in some of it, and it was just burnout, really. Burnout. And, I think for us millennials, when we reach a taumata and it's successful and it's great, we kind of strive to better that taumata.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. Yeah. It's like, okay, that was great. What else can I do? Okay, cool. I'm going to climb here and I'm going to climb here. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Those are the movements that develop and grow our people. It's more so about how can we do that and have a self-awareness to care for ourselves so that we sustain our well-being and that we sustain the relationships in our lives. And
the things that matter most, right?
Kia ora. Yeah. So when COVID hit, we were really, really busy. I think we had something like 11 productions on the go at once. It was quite ridiculous. They were all at different stages of production life. Some were at seed stage, some were in post, some were in production. But 11, that's just like, what are you up to kind of thing, And it took COVID to disrupt that pattern of striving for excellence and climbing taumata and wanting to be of servitude to my people. It took COVID to disrupt that, to go, hang on, what are we up to? Why are we working ourselves into the ground over and over and over? When did I start to glorify hustle culture? When did I start to think that my whole identity is wrapped up in the mahi that I produce? And so for myself, COVID was actually a blessing to stop and take a breath and realign with myself. And so that's what the last 3 years has been actually, bro, is just realigning and building a self-awareness about what my values and principles are and how I align to those and the kaupapa that I commit to.
That's an awesome lens, I think, to see that season as. And I think a lot of people have a different lens around what their time means for them. But to hear your story and to hear the amount of things that you had going on, but what I'm also hearing is the intention of those were for something amazing. And that's for our reo, that's for our ahurea, that's the uplift. But at what sacrifice? And hearing you sort of step into vulnerability, saying that you were the sacrifice for a lot of these things to be shared and expressed. So for this to happen and for you to return back to self, it's an awesome way for us who are on that path.
Kia ora.
Because I'm hearing that, I'm seeing it and observing it in my own life, where that hustle culture or the desire to serve, the desire to create is so exciting. And the learning that I'm receiving from you is it's all right to do that, but ensure that we have space and capacity within ourselves and don't lose sight of what's important, meaning whānau, your own well-being. And what I also can probably share here is sometimes you don't know if you're going around in a circle,
Kia ora.
And so that time when you just take the foot off the brake as a way to reset. It's a way to take a breather. It's a way to pop your head up and just say, am I actually going in the right direction? Or have I just been going around in a circle for this time? And so, beautiful kōrero, sis.
Yeah.
And where are you now? 3 years, how are you feeling? What are the learnings that you're taking from all of that into where things are moving for yourself and your whānau?
Where am I at now? I don't know. I'm just open and fluid and surrendering to what comes my way. I mean, I've always been a very put together person. I've always liked to be in control of what is going on in my life. And I've always liked to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G is how it's going to happen. And this is when it's going to happen. And I like to control those situations. And I suppose in this season of enlightenment and trip back to self, I've learnt that actually that need for control, that need to understand is a pattern that I have created over hard and challenging times of my life, going all the way back to childhood. And that's where the sense of and need of control comes from. And so I'm at the moment, bro, I'm actually just open to learning myself. Like I don't know, simplicity is exciting to me at the moment. The mundane is exciting to me at the moment. Being with my children is exciting for me, and to actually have the energy and capacity to be engaged and present as a parent is exciting to me. I take my hat off to my mother. She's been at our side ever since our business launched, and there was a time where she was, raising my children more than
māmā.
kia ora, because Hoipa and I were off overseas and on productions and doing mahi and here and there, and that when COVID hit and you have to stop and think, that was one of the things that stood out to me. I didn't want to be a milestone parent that was present and engaged on birthdays or big kaupapa or first day at school and things like that. No, I wanted to give that value of connection to my children every day. I didn't want to have this deadline mentality in my home in the mornings where it's like we have to go by 8:30. No, we want slow, present mornings where my kids get off to school and they're calm and regulated and ready for the day and what will come at them. And so that's what's up for me, bro, is actually just learning about self. And, we're talking about Matariki, where it was 4 or 5 years of making Matariki content and learning Matariki in university and preaching and disseminating knowledge and mātāpono and values of Matariki to our people. And when I looked inward, I couldn't actually confidently say that I was living by the values and mātāpono of Matariki as I was producing mahi. And so when I think about Matariki, what are the values and principles of Matariki? One of the most important one is connection. Connection is absolutely at the forefront of my thinking. It's, the connection to people and place, time and space. Matariki is the window that gives us a glimpse into the world of our ancestors. Matariki connects the spiritual world to the physical world, and the conduits are Pohutukawa and Waipunarangi. Matariki hunganui. Matariki, the gatherer of people. It connects the people. Matariki connects us to our natural environment and the ebbs and flows, the peaks and troughs that happen all around us every day. But here I was, burning out and working at disconnected and working at a pace that I couldn't sustain. And if we look at any animal in the environment, there are peaks and troughs of their nutrition. Sometimes deer are fat, sometimes kereru are fat, sometimes they're lean. Seasons. Sometimes we can't even find, the deer, whatever they're doing. If I look at my own moana in the north, in Muri Whenua, there's all these fishing competitions that happen in January for snapper, for tāmure. That's the worst time to fish for tāmure. They're all off spawning. In my moana, they're not there to be caught. They're actually off creating uri, and yet we have all these fishing competitions going on, taking away whilst they're birthing their uri. And so that's what I started to think about. I started to think within myself, hey, am I living by the mātāpono and values of the philosophy and knowledge base that I'm sharing and disseminating to other people? No, I'm actually not. I've become so disconnected and caught up doing mahi. And so
it's distracting, eh?
Yeah,
Mahi, eh?
Yeah,
it can be distracting.
It is. It can be distracting. And I just decided actually I would like to connect with self again. And I would like to connect to my environment, and my environment is my tamariki, it's my husband, it's my family. You know, I don't want an identity that's built solely on the work that I produce. And so, yeah, just sort of that has been the pathway since COVID up until today, bro. So
That's awesome.
Here we are.
That's awesome just to hear the enlightenment at this time in your life, and it's not another 10 years down
Kia
the track,
ora.
you know. It's one of those blessings in disguise that COVID happened, and it was a way for you to just look in the rearview mirror, to reflect and to realize, whoa, I've actually been so disconnected because I've been so focused on what's ahead that you're detached from the now.
Yeah.
And what I've learned throughout my huarahi is that control is a way for the mind to have ease. It's a way for us to have a sense of stability or groundedness, because if we know what's happening at A, B, C all the way through to Z, there's a level of control, but you're disconnected from what's happening right now. And so that surrender, the letting go, can feel it. I can feel it from you, which is awesome, sis. And I roto i tō hikoa i runga i tēnei huarahi e pāna kia Matariki, kaia koe ētahi pūrākau, ētahi kiwaha ai hāngai ana ki Waipunarangi?
Wow, ko te whakaaro tuatahi ki au, ko te wai tonu. Ko Waipunarangi, ko ia te whetū o ngā wai. Matariki tā puapua, anā ko ngā tā puapua wai e nā ka tā puapua mai ki te whenua i te hekenga o te ua i te rangi. Anā, mena ka whakaaro au ki te wai me enei kōrero, enei wānanga a tāua i tēnei rā, he aha te tohu ki au. He oranga kei te wai. He oranga nui kei te wai. Ko te wai ka whakanoa, ka whakawātea i te tangata. Anā mena e kōrero ana tāua mo tēnei hīkoi e kōrero nei tāua, he nui te hua, he nui te oranga kei roto i te wai. Haere ki te wai, ki te horoi, haere ki te wai, ki te pure, haere ki te wai, ki te tohi. Haere ki te wai, ki te whakaora i a koe anō. Anō reira, kei roto tonu i te wai. Ngā kōrero, ngā pūrākau mō Waipunarangi. Ana, ai, koe rā tāku e whakaaro nei tēnei wā. You know, we're talking about seasons of life, the peaks and the troughs, the challenges and the triumphs. And when we think about the ebb and the flow of water, the only thing that is consistent and the only thing that remains is that it's impermanent, and that it changes all of the time, and that we too as human in our human experience should be open to change and be open to flowing fluidly and freely with what comes in our circumstances. And so that kōrero and that whakaaro around wai and water, I actually find a lot of oranga in that, you know, and our people have for a long time. The wai has always been used to whakanoa, whakawātea, whakaora. And I think there's a lot we can learn from the natural occurrences in our world, and we can align them to realities of our own lives. Yeah.
I resonate hard with that kōrero, you know, because we are all human, and there are many things that we carry that sometimes feel too hard to carry. You know, te taumahatanga mo te ao hurihuri nei o ngā mahi, o te mahi pāpā, we rātu momo. And so for me, going to the moana or going to wai, it's a way, you know, ki te whakanoa ai, kia tuku te hara, you know, kia tuku te taumahatanga. And I always feel cleansed. I always feel like a better sense of connection when that taumahatanga has been released. And so heart out, resonate with that kōrero, sis.
Yeah, and you know, he iwi noho tai mātou, ngā titara, ka noho ki te takutai. Ana, iau ka hoki ki muri whenua ki roto i au. Tērā tētahi puke, ana, ka traua koe i te waka, ana, ka piki te puke, ka heke, ka kite koe i te moana. Ana, ka tau mai tētahi āhuaranga ki runga i au. Tino tau ana taku āhua, taku wairua, taku mauri, te kite ngātui, taku wai, taku moana, e piatata mai nā, e karanga mai nā, ana ka mohi o ahau, koe rā taku oranga. And, you know, I live in Te Arawa, I live around lakes and beautiful bodies of water, but they're so different to the ocean.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting to me to watch my children and their relationship to water, because they are both from the sea and from tua whenua, from freshwater sources. And so their relationship to water can be quite different in how they find oranga in the water. For me, I love going to the moana, to the beach. I love to watch the tide turn and the changes that come with that, the manu that it brings. It's a different essence for me around roto. When I'm in roto, I have a different sense of calm. It's still calming, but I think there's something in the movement of the body of the ocean that sort of sets some sort of, I'm not too sure, an innate calmness when I see it, and it just feels like home.
What I get when you share that kōrero is the kōrero around mokopuna. It's like I te wā ka kite koe tō wai, a ka mōhi o tō wai, a ke te hoki mai koe, eh? So it's sort of like that connection that is beautiful. And we all have that connection, not just to people, but also to place. And so when you're now in this space back into, I guess, being back out there, in the mahi space, what are the things that excite you, particularly around Matariki and where we're moving into, following this kaupapa and seeing just such a huge uproar and everyone excited about it? And so what are the things that you're seeing that excite you?
I just think it's all exciting. I mean, it's incredible to have a body of knowledge, a way of being, a way of knowing that our ancestors once lived by, now living in the contemporary world amongst our people, and they use it and adapt it in ways that fit their environments and their worlds. It's so exciting. It's exciting because really, Matariki is a timekeeping system. And so if we go back to connection as well, it actually connects us to our sovereignty, our effervescent will and determination to mana motu haketanga. It tells us that there are indigenous ways of knowing and being, and we absolutely can still live that way today. And what it does is it causes self-inquiry. People have to really start to think and assess their lives now. We have this amazing body of indigenous knowledge that has just disrupted our country, our whole country. It's a part of the national identity now, beyond Māori. I mean, I don't know if anyone ever really saw...
Stops to think that, eh?
Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. It influences policy. It influences government. It influences the way our whānaus think and behave. And what's exciting for me now is to see small pockets of whānau taking up the courage to implement values and principles of Matariki within their own whānau and in their own home, and taking it away from being the ceremonial practice that happens on large scale and actually going, no, this is how I'm going to implement it in my home every day. Simple ways of living by the principles and values of Matariki. So that's exciting for me. It makes me think, oh my goodness, if this is what this body of knowledge does in 2020, what's going to happen in 2040 when our kids are all adults? Yeah, that's exciting. Land back, mātauranga back, everything back. It's just, that's what excites me the most.
It's very exciting to think about that, because their base is just significantly higher than perhaps our time, even the reanga before that. And so the creativity, the things that they are now interacting with that we probably didn't have as well in terms of the digital age, now having the mātauranga, like what is going to be created from that. So it's really exciting. And when you think about, I guess, yours and Hohepa's journey, your kids have grown with you guys as you have been developing your reo, developing your guys' mātauranga around Matariki, around Pākihi, all of these different things. What is one thing that you hope that they have taken from Mama and Papa?
Oh, that's a big question. I just, I want my tamariki to feel confident in who they are and to understand themselves at a level that is an alignment and connection to their values and principles, whatever those may be. As they grow, we can shape and form our children to what we believe to be the best way, but they always grow to be better than us. They're like better versions than us, and they should be.
So they should
They should be. They should always grow to be better than us. And, as I talk about this, I think about this kōrero from one of my greatest teachers, Sir Po Te Mara, and it talks about facing the sun, that you should always look to the sun. Ka anga tō kanohi ki te rā. And when he shared that with us, I wasn't quite clear onto what that meant. And as the wānanga went on, I realized that when you face the sun, a shadow is cast behind you, and that is te marumarutanga mō ngā uri, kai te heke mai. Koera te marumarutanga e noho haumaru ai, o uri, o tauira, o ha akerai nei, kia noho haumaru i a rātou e tupu ana, i a rātou e pakeke mai ana, i a rātou e kaumātua mai ana. And so, kia ngātu o tātou kanohi ki te rā, hei marumarutanga mō ngā uri, kai te heke mai. And I just hope that, and I have faith, and I have belief that Hoipa and I have done everything, are doing everything that we can to just grow confident Māori who are confident to stand in their Māori world and be unapologetically Māori in any space that they wish to traverse, whether that's on this whenua or on whenua ke atu or in the VR world and digital space. Who knows? The world truly is their oyster, and I think the best thing we can ever do as parents is just build the character of our people to have the build character of our children to have self-confidence, self-belief, self-alignment, self-awareness. And if that happens, then I'll be really happy. And if it doesn't, then kei te pai, we'll traverse that ocean and the ngaru that come with that when it happens.
What an answer, sis. Holy, I got the goosebumps of doom, and I could just feel like water welling up in my eyes. I could feel it, and I was like, as a papa myself, ne. And so that kōrero resonates, if we face the sun, our shadow is there to protect, to keep our children safe in a sense, but also it's a way to lead, ne. And it's beautiful to have that imagery in my mind around that deep and ohonu kōrero. And the other thing around that is, as a māmā, you embody that. You want an example, like what that actually looks like.
Kia ora.
And man, I've seen you, a cheerleader, seeing people like doing lifts in gym or like on the competition floor. Man, you're like having a good old time, raging, dancing. Like, does that come naturally to you to celebrate others or, wanting others to do well? Is that something?
I think really, if I really think about it, I've always been someone that's in tune with my emotion and not afraid to express them. I think as I've grown and I've learned and I've become more conditioned by my environment, I've kind of held back on some of that sort of stuff. And, I just think one life, man, like if you want to celebrate someone, tell them. You're mean, bro. If someone's playing up, tell them. If you want to cry. I feel like our emotions have been really affected by this colonization experience. Our emotions have been colonized. How we cry has been how we think. And for me, I just think if I feel a certain way about someone or about something that they've done, then I want to let them know, like, especially those good feelings, those high feelings of pride and joy and excitement. And I just feel like sometimes people want to do that, but they are worried about what everyone's thinking about how does this look if I'm bloody doing dance moves out on the CrossFit floor while my mate just did a 90 kg clean and jerk. Great job, Falila. And so I just want to celebrate that. I want her to know that was mean, bro. Like, paki, yes. And I just think that, we should always be our people's biggest cheerleaders. There's too much of this, of sort of curating and watching what we say and how we act and what we do. And I just think, I want to celebrate my mate and the achievement that they've just achieved. So I'm going to do it.
Because that's also some of the biggest things, that cripple a lot of people was the sense of being afraid of what other people are going to think. Because they might think this, I'm not going to do that because of either the shame or the guilt or whatever else comes with it. But it's cool to hear that that doesn't really come into your state of mind when you want to express and celebrate others, because I too am the same. I have no trouble like letting people know how I feel, particularly when it comes to the good things as well, because there's almost a sense of whakaiti, or, you know, wanting to not necessarily be too whakahihi around the acknowledgements, but I feel it's good for those to be acknowledged and celebrated, because e tika o kōrero I te timata. When you said a lot of people see the tip of the iceberg, but when I'm celebrating people, I'm celebrating everything that's actually taken for that moment to happen. And do you think te reo Māori has been pivotal in your confidence as a wāhine, and a wāhine Māori?
Absolutely, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, you know, my upbringing was still very Māori. I was an urban Māori. I grew up in Auckland. My grandparents were a part of the pepper potting that happened in the 50s, where they were sort of spread out across urban centres. And so I was a third generation Māori that grew up in GI in Glen Innes in Auckland. But one thing that my father did was always took us home up north. Every holidays we were up north. We were with our people. We were at home. We were on the marae. And the only thing that was missing was the reo. And I was one of those like weird kids that was like, nah, man, I don't want to play with you fellas, cuzzies. Like, I want to go and sit by the nannies in the koroua, the koeke inside the whare. I used to be mesmerised by my kuia and my kaumātua. There was something magical about them. There was something atua like about them when I was a child. And so when I learnt the reo, all of the stuff that I had accumulated in my lifetime and experienced on my own marae and in our Māori world, it just all made sense. It just all made sense, and it made me confident about my perspective of the world. It made me confident about my motivations for wanting to do things. It made me confident in my identity. Absolutely, yes.
Wow.
But I think what might have happened is that I was so caught up in, oh my God, I love this reo so much, that I got lost in that. And then my identity became about building that up, and that was it, you know. And so te reo Māori has just been an absolute saviour. You know, so much oranga comes from learning our language. So many of the challenges that we see in our whānau, and that are common challenges in whānau Māori, I've seen the reo act like water. He whakanoa, he whakaola, he whakawātea I ngā raruraru, I ngā wero o te whānau. He oranga kei te reo, he oranga kei te wai.
Oh. I rā, ko rānonga e au I tētahi āhuatanga I te wā e ako ana I te reo. I te wā e ako ana I te reo, ka pupu ana te reo, o tirā ka huri haerenga whakaro. And so as you start to learn the language, your thoughts are influenced. And so now you start to see the world through how our ancestors saw the world. And you're not thinking in Pākehā, you're thinking in whakaaro Māori, you're thinking Māori. Did you notice that happen with you in your journey around learning te reo Māori? Did you see your thoughts starting to be influenced? Did you see things with the te reo Māori lens? Or what were some of the things that were happening internally as you were on the journey?
Yeah, I think that was probably part of some of the exhausting part of it, because you're just constantly an internal wānanga going, is this a whakaaro Māori? Or does this come from my colonised conditioning? I'm not too sure. Or is this from the hāhi? Or is this from this or that? And so you're always in wānanga with yourself as you're on this journey. And it never ends. I still am doing that today. You know, it's constantly thinking, does this come from a Māori worldview? Does it come from a Māori worldview, or is it something that has been adapted into the Māori world but come from another culture or another place on earth, or whatever the thinking might be? And so I think, again, finding alignment to yourself and your own values and principles, and what that means in your reclamation journey of te reo Māori, in your decolonisation journey of your culture, that is what helps you navigate those spaces and go, actually, no, this is whakaaro Māori. And who is to say that that's not whakaaro Māori? You know, we all have different circumstances in our iwi, in our hapu, in our whānau. No two whānau are the same, no two iwi are the same, no two hapu are the same. And so, again, taking markers and connecting from our environment that we're in to guide us through those challenges of the journey. Am I thinking Māori? Is this a Māori way of saying something? Am I behaving in a Māori way? And just be easy on yourself. You know, we can be so harsh and so critical of ourselves that we build this critical narrative that is always ticking over at the same time as well. And so we're trying to be great and we're trying to learn and grow. And then there's this little narrative inside that just keeps stopping you and saying, hang on, but is this and is this that? And so just sitting with those narratives and that inner critique and understanding, no, kei te pai, we're all good, and being kind to self.
While facing the sun.
While facing the sun.
So you're creative, you know, he māmā koe, you know, he hoarangatira koe. You're also a wāhine who champions in the space of, you know, Pākihi, you know, being a wāhine Māori, doing Pākihi. That's an awesome space to be in. And I think of another wāhine, you know, our sister Media, who's doing really well in that space. And a few others come to mind. So when you're thinking about te anga whakamua, and you're thinking about your creative expression, and you're thinking about Pākihi or productions, what are some of the things that you're excited about, whether it's kaupapa that you're a part of, or even just new things that you want to create? If you don't mind sharing some of those things that are in the works or things that you're excited to bring to life.
Yeah, I think at this stage in life, bro, I'm actually excited to be a learner again. I'm excited to be a student. And recently I was a part of a research project with our brother Te Kanapu, and we were invited in by Poutemara to act as experts of tikanga and to give advice around tikanga for building tikanga in the virtual reality space. So this is a world that our tamariki know very well. They're very quick. They adapt very quickly. And so we were a part of a wānanga that was thinking about what is the place of our tikanga in the virtual reality space. And so I hadn't been into that type of environment for a long time because, as you say, I had been in a business world for a long time. And when you're in a business world, you get caught up in business. Doing business. And even my creativity was kind of limited during that time. And so
Which is not what you want as a creative, eh?
No. And at the end of the day, I'm a creative. I am definitely a creative. And so actually, bro, my business lens is very, very different to when we started 10 years ago. And, you know, I was very business driven, entrepreneurial, innovative, and I wanted to take that pathway and I wanted to create new things and I wanted to create value through product and service. And then, you know, again, that post-COVID time period, it made me assess, is that the pathway that I want to go? Is business the place that I want to be really succeeding in? Or do I want to get back to my creative self? And so at the moment, bro, I'm actually just in a time of being open to new opportunity. And the funny thing is, brother,
there's no control in the sense.
There's no control. But what's actually happened is the kaupapa and projects that I am a part of now, they are totally in alignment. It's like calling in everything that I need in this season of life. And, you know, to go from running a business and being a part of projects that were just pumping things out, there was never any time to stop and be like, wow, that was amazing. It was always on to the next. Now I can be fully engaged in projects and kaupapa that I'm in, and I can just like sit and take it all in and spend some time after they close to really bank in on, oh my God, that was amazing. This work is exciting. I'm glad to be a part of this kaupapa. And so for me, bro, actually my creative self is really important at the moment, and my learning self is really important at the moment, because when you are at the helm of a business or at the helm of projects or at the helm of anything really, it's hard to enter a learning space because you are the person that is that is
Providing.
teaching everyone around you. And so I hadn't actually used my intellectual brain, my creative brain for some time to the capacity that I did on that VR project. And it excited me. It reminded me of my academic self when we were in academia and just constantly in intellectual wānanga. And so, yeah, I think business for me looks very different now. It's not the aspirations I had as a businesswoman 10 years ago are very, very different. You know, it was important for me to accumulate assets quickly to build a future for my mokopuna, for my children. But that's not the driver for me anymore. The asset building type thing is not the driver for me anymore. I want to
reversing a little bit, it's stripping back now.
It really is. And, you know, for me, I feel like my rose-coloured glasses around some of my perspectives when I was full throttle in business have been stripped away by the events that are going on across the world, you know? It's just quite incredible to think, oh my God, we're still warring, we're still taking people's land, we're still doing this, and like here I am on the other side of the world striving for this, and this, and how does that contribute? How does my efforts as a business person, or how does my creativity, is there a correlation between what I'm doing all the way on this side of the world and what's happening all the way over there? Because if there is, I want to divest. I want to pull back. I don't want to be a part of that. Land back. And so, yeah, I suppose very different perspective, bro. I don't know what business looks like. It's interesting, man. Just full new season of wānanga.
I love that. And I love that for you, sis. And it's important, I guess, that you bring that kaupapa, I guess, into the space because there is a connection to everything.
Kia ora.
There's a connection to everything. And us being in the driver's seat of how we live or the lens that we see life through is leading towards something. And so how can we be more mindful around what we're contributing our time and our lives to? Is it just the benefit for us ourselves, or is there ways that we can actually slow down the process? Meaning we can still get to the destination, but we might just have to take a few detours if it means that we're aware of the path that we're going down. So we're contributing to something that we would rather not be. And so I'm hearing that, and I think it's beautiful that you've been able to take that time, seeing you in wānanga, and even just hearing you talk about new things and learnings, because there's a lot of excitement within learning new things, sis? Particularly when you're about growth, or you're about wanting to develop or change circumstances, or whether it's developing te reo Māori, whether it's, you know, even getting into business, or even as a parent, ever changing, he ori te ki te wai.
Kia ora.
You know,
Kia ora.
te pono ngā kōrero, he ori te ki te wai. We're always constantly moving. And so the new learnings plays a huge part in how we actually move.
Kia ora.
So if we are like water and we're stagnant, ka paru e,
Kia ora.
you know, ka paru te wai. And so new knowledge is the only way that we actually allow the water to flow.
Kia ora.
And so it's even great to even hear that e te tuahine. So just going to pass it over to you. Mehe mea he kōrero whakamutunga mo te hunga kua areare mai nei ki tō tāua nei kōrero. He hanga kupu whakamutunga e te tuahine, kei a koe te wā.
Ia koe kōrero ana, e rongo ana i ngā kupu te minita taiohi noi honei, hana rāwhiti Maipi Clark. Ana, i rongo au i ai e kōrero ana i tētahi uiui te reo irirangi pea, ana ka pātai a te pātai. Hea te kōrero, ka pēhea tō tiaki i a koe ano, ana ko tana whakautu ko te inuai. Inuai. But really that message from Hannah was to our leaders, to our people who are taking up the challenges. They're growing our people. They're innovative. They're carrying us. They're bringing new light to old knowledge. They're doing the mahi, heavy mahi. And I think the message in that from Hannah Rāwhiti was just to remember to take the time, because we don't want to exhaust our most precious people. They are our most precious taonga. So drink water, breath, in and out. Take the time to just come back to self, because we love you and we need you, and everyone is so important. And this whole idea of burning out and hustle culture, it's not sustainable, and that we actually just need to take the time, ki te inu wai. And I thought that was such a wise and simple piece of information and answer to come from such a young person. It makes me excited about the mokopuna generation, the kōhanga reo generation, te tiriti generation, te haere mai nei. Ooh, I'm scared for the MPs, man. They are equipped, our young people. And, you know, for us, don't stand in the way, man. Let them come through. They are so exciting. They've got so much to offer. Let's not gatekeep. Let's not block them out. Let's also join them in this self-care journey and help them rise to the places that they need to rise. Inu wai.
Oh, man. It's been such a joy to have you on the podcast, te tuahine, to have this wānanga, to have this kōrero, because of this project, because of this kaupapa Seeds of Matariki, we've been able to spend a lot of time together, and I've just really appreciated your guidance, your mentorship, your āhua. It's been very warming. It's been very comforting, I guess, for myself to be closer to you over these times. And I'm grateful for this kaupapa that has brought us together, but also to our brother Te Kanapu, who sort of weaved in these connections. And I think your voice is important. Tō reo, it's important. Your story is important. And just the way that you live is a great example for your uri, but also for my tamaiti, you know, for all of those younger ones who are looking for role models. So just keep facing the sun, e te tuahine. And kia koutou who have listened. Really do appreciate your time. And also hope you got some little nuggets from this. Please follow the sis online for some CrossFit energy, for some new dance moves if you want. But I runga i tērā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou.
Cheers, sis.
Me.